Hey minions, welcome to Crank It Up. I'm Jim Price, and on this episode of Faction Factory, I'll be talking about the Chefs by Vespert. For those who don't know him, Vespert is one of the longest tenured playtesters. He loves to correct my mistakes, and we have had some epic debates over the years. But there is no denying that he has a true feel for the game, and has been a tremendous asset to the community, and I think his insight into the game is reflected in his faction. A good faction lends itself to a very concise description, but a good faction also allows the casual reader to write that description themselves. When I was evaluating the chefs, within 2 cards I instantly knew where this was going. At first glance, the chefs seem like a play-on-minion version of the truckers. They have a number of play-on-minion actions and transfer them around. That in and of itself would be new, as transferring play-on-minion actions has rarely been used in the game. But when I saw the Kami, the rest of the faction seemingly wrote itself. The waiter can deliver an action to a minion on another base, while the Kami can either recur an action or place 2 +1 counters on actions. That last clause may seem odd, because power counters on actions do nothing unless a card says otherwise, and that is precisely the point. When I saw that, I knew there was going to be a Summon Wolf style card, or a We Will Rock You card, or any form of payoff, and there is. This is a very interesting corner of the design space, because the rule covers a lot of non-issues. The official ruling is that power counters only automatically apply to minions and titans, and there are plenty of ways to place them there. The rules explicitly state that power counters on actions, bases, or buried cards have no effect unless a card says otherwise. I already mentioned Summon Wolves, and we began to explore this with Storyteller's Hut. So why put counters on actions? I think this is a great idea, because actions are the perfect staging ground for them. It's true, you do have to worry about action destruction. However, not every faction has such cards, and the ones that do have them in limited capacity. It is much more likely that they have minion destruction. I think there are 2 main advantages to putting the counters on actions. They are staged so that they do not provide power right away, power that opponents can manipulate, and the power is spread out across several actions, so that you avoid creating a singularly powerful target. By literally diversifying your assets, you make it so that you do not lose everything when you lose a single action. To a lesser extent, you are also immune to the Dragon Warrior while the counters are on the actions. But this isn't without its drawbacks either. If you remove the minion, you also remove the action, so there are still counters, no pun intended. Without the power counters boosting the minion remains in range of most power cap destruction, which is why the slow drip of moving the counters from action to minion is necessary. In general, the power counters are resources that can be delivered in an unorthodox way, which slows down the power creep without making the inevitable burst too powerful, and I like that. For a faction like the Chefs, you have to view them as a state machine, following the life cycle of their cards. First, you have the Waiter, who has a main ability and a subtle bonus. The main ability is to move and transfer an action, but if I have counters on an action, I can deliver that action to a minion on another base. Not only do I move, but I can deliver another source of power. I can get the power counters from the Kami, but there is a payoff for transferring the action, as the Maitre D gives you the global ability of transferring a counter from the action to the minion holding the action and get additional power. So a waiter delivering an action with a counter can generate at least 5 power without using a regular card play, and all it requires is time to set up, time which is granted because the power counter isn't supplying power yet. The sous chef can also be a source of counters and allows the counters to be treated as a resource because you could remove them to draw a card. Ever since Monster Smash, I wanted more abilities that have counters doing something other than supplying power, and I think there is a lot of intrigue with the sous chef because as an opponent, you don't know which action is being considered for power and which action is being considered for resources. The waiter can serve one other intriguing purpose as a way of getting rid of negative actions. The action has to originally be on another of your minions, but the minion who ultimately receives the action doesn't have to be yours. The minion just has to be at the new base. So an Ancient Curse or Poison style action can be transferred to an opposing minion with clever positioning, which makes the faction more defensive than it would appear. This type of versatility is also reflected in the Short-Tempered Chef. This hybrid minion, who is clearly modeled after El Bandito, Vespert's tribute to me, can play an extra action on a minion once and establish an engine after that. you can stage power increases by priming actions with power counters every turn, like Air Doctor but without the power creep, or you can remove a counter to transfer the action to another minion. This is versatile because the action does not have to be yours, so it could be a mechanism to steal an action like Cyber Evolution, to move a poison style action, or to create a bait and switch play on another base. And because Kami can place a counter on any action, this can be expedited quickly. As far as the actions were concerned, you instantly knew that one of the actions was going to activate the counters for power, which Signature Dish does. And it should be a double feature, and it is. The name is fitting, as the Signature Dish name applies to the core action. At worst, it's an upgrade, simply giving +2 power, but it can also activate the counters that were on other actions as well. Humble Pie functions like an upgrade eventually, because it can transfer the counter directly to the minion itself, in case you want the counters on minions as opposed to actions. To go this route, you need to transfer the action multiple times, which is slow since the primary mechanic for transferring actions are waiters, who can transfer for free but require specific positioning, and the short-tempered chef, who requires a power counter to be removed. Instead, I think it's better to use the faction's other two payoffs. Remove Your Apron can destroy a minion to transfer all of your power counters on your actions to your cards, whether they are minions, actions, or titans. This is also a 23 special, but like you call this archaeology, it can be played before or after a base scores. I like the idea of playing it after the base scores because you no longer need the minion, and it can set up a chain of bases breaking. Given that most actions add at least 2 power counters, like Grocery Basket, you can create a sizable swing. The other payoff is really intriguing and very much a We Will Rock You style play. It needs seasoning. This action does 2 things. First, it places a power counter on each of your actions that is played on your minions, regardless of their controller. So if you have a Signature Dish, you'd be getting +1 counters on each action and they would count for power. But it also activates a secondary power boost that cannot be taken away regardless of how the counters change. You can combo this with Raw Meat, which wants to have exactly 4 counters. If it needs seasoning plays the 4th, you'd gain 4 power that would not go away when Raw Meat is destroyed for a VP. Because this is a global effect, It Needs Seasoning allows you to spread out cards that aren't necessarily supplying power and activate many of them at once. The last 2 cards are basic utility cards, and I'm very happy to see the word Other in Silver Closh's ability. Silver Closh can protect its minion and all other actions on it if it has a power counter, which is easy enough to do for this faction. I'm generally not a fan when an action serves as immunity for others and its own immunity, and it's closer to shielding, which I think is a good fit as it is still counterable unless you have both of them. The final card is a recursion card that gives you an extra action. It's customary for factions that rely on a specific card type to have the means to recur those cards, as they can become useless once that resource is exhausted. Obviously, this faction can eventually supply power counters, so the usual power counter strategies will enjoy them. However, the chefs allow for a different type of giant ants play because of Remove Your Apron. This could occur either before or after a base scores, preferably after, where you can create a series of power counters that could be transferred to a minion on a different base. Then, your usual Under Pressure and We Are the Champion plays could occur, breaking 2 or 3 bases in a single turn. But there's also an Expert Timing play here, which is interesting because Expert Timing allows you to transfer the counters to cards. Because of Signature Dish, you now have a reason to put them on actions, so you can play Expert Timing first to borrow a bunch of power counters and place it on the actions. Then you use Remove Your Apron to transfer the power to a different base. As a last-minute power siphon, this could be really powerful if you can steal someone else's power with Expert Timing, use it to overtake first, then use Remove Your Apron to persist those counters onto another of your minions. The Waiter has some interesting potential because he can transfer actions to minions. When an action grants a talent to a minion, this means that the talent can be used again after it is transferred. Unfortunately, there isn't really a card that makes use of that yet, because the touch makes you lose all other abilities. So if you activated the touch on Huffy, then had the Waiter deliver it, you could have the new minion use the touch again. But Huffy is stranded on that base because she lost her original ability. If the power level is appropriate, this could become a 2-base combination, and the global power of It Needs Seasoning makes this a possibility. But the action I like here, that I almost never play, is Passengers. Because the waiter can transfer an action to any minion, including himself, this turns the waiter into Scoundrel. Passengers can be played on the minion you intend to move, then have the waiter move and transfer it to himself, then have the waiter activate the Passenger's talent to move the original Passenger's minion to the waiter base. This is an interesting way to make a minion who is normally not mobile move, but as the passenger ironically. If you look at Remove Your Apron, it can destroy any minion as long as it has one of your actions on it. It doesn't have to be your minion. The luchadors specialize in playing such actions, so Quick Setup and Remove Your Apron can be another instant KO. The difference is, the power counters on those actions would get transferred, which would be very powerful in Phase 3. Combined with Reversal and the Capa Roja, there could be a really powerful last-minute swing. In fact, all of the Chef Play on Minion actions can be played on any minion, which is perfect for Senor Mucho Slam, because the waiter can transfer them off anyway, and they don't immediately help your opponent at all. As Play on Minion actions, they directly affect a minion, but don't necessarily add power, and don't necessarily add to power creep. This is great for Aramis, because you can play multiple of these actions in a turn. The Musketeers love the card draw that these actions can give, as well as the slight recursion offered by Dishwashing Assignment. But finally, it's only fitting that the last pairing with the chefs goes back to where it all began, my first argument with Vespert, the Werewolf Titan. You can get some absolutely insane card draw from this pairing, possibly too much. The Short-Tempered Chef can place 2 counters in a turn. Grocery Basket can remove a counter to draw a card twice, courtesy of the chef. The Sous Chef can place a counter and then remove it to draw a 3rd card. Moon Touch can already draw 2 cards per turn, so you are looking at an extra 5 cards per turn, and the engine seems easy to set up since the initial card draw helps you draw the cards that sustains it. This is honestly more of a knock on the Great Wolf Spirit than the chefs themselves, and though I love that Titan, he just seems broken on too many occasions. But since we have the Titan, we may need to tone that down. Another small nitpick would be that the Kami seems objectively better than Repeater Perfects, who were already replaced by Disco Lu. Context always matters, but it's important to see whether other cards have become replaceable. I like this faction because it uses the design space well. It seems slow and methodical, and requires proper positioning in order of play, all things that I enjoy in a faction. What are your thoughts about the chefs? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, be sure to like and subscribe, let's shut it down.